One day Drew just kind of came into my office because Drew grew up in Long Island and in a very dramatic fashion had the DVD of the Amivitille Horror and kind of threw it down on my desk and said, this is the next movie that we have to make. It had all the things that we look for in a film.
The best ghost stories ever written have really dealt with madness, the descent into madness, and they succeeded more because of that depiction than depictions of ghosts and monsters.
Oh, nice.
I never thought I was shooting a horror movie when I was doing this. I mean, Andrew Douglas and I had this sort of pact at the beginning that I would play the drama and he would shoot the horror movie, and he would take care of that. And because I don't know what that means if you say you're possessed in this moment or you're experiencing some sort of supernatural phenomenon. As an actor, I can't play that. So what I can show you is a person disassembling and having a psychological unraveling throughout the course of the movie. So that I can find.
I think she misses her daddy.
Give me back my daughter.
There are lots of boo scares, which are, frankly, a sound sting and a cut. And that's fine, but what I was interested in was scares that just kept on denying you. You know, they kept on holding off from the gratification, and then relaxed you, and then delivered a scare in the most unusual place.
It's a horror film, but it's about these characters. It's character-driven horror film. It's not about a slasher movie. And that's what I love about this movie. And okay, we show a lot more gore than the original, but it got me. I was scared, actually, in a couple of parts.
I mean, I'd like to think that the thing that is sustaining this film is actually that the actors are taking it out of just being a horror film into something you actually care about.
It's the key, trying to find actors or actresses that are just ready to make that break into bigger movies.
You know, I definitely wanted George to be as physically imposing as possible.
Get out of here, Jess! Ryan!
I just want him to be a big sort of simian in nature, you know, this sort of house of a man that just, you know, the juxtaposition between he and these children was just immense as I could make it. So I wanted that to happen. I wanted him to look like he could walk through a wall if he had to and to get what he wanted.
There are certainly a few points with all our chase stuff in the house where Ryan can get pretty scary. Just because, you know, this guy chasing you with a gun, and you know the gun's rubber, and you know Ryan's not really going to hurt you, but it's still scary because he really sells it.
All right, hands. Jesse! Ryan!
All the kids in the movie, I really just, I kept it at arm's length the whole movie. I never really spent any time with those guys, and the reason was I didn't want to get close to them. I didn't want to fall in love with them. It just made my job harder.
And the kids were probably like, why doesn't he like me? And I realized that it's all very important for Ryan's craft was to really not get too close to them, because then when he has to abuse them, you don't want the kids to say, well, he was so nice before.
George, look what I found! Ryan, he hangs out with me a little bit because he's like, if I'm at work, he's already done with work, and when I'm at work, after that, he's at work, and sometimes we're like at the same time, and we barely see him.
And
And it's really difficult to be angry and abusive with children. As Ryan Reynolds, I was, you know, mortified that I had to do that, but you know, I mean, I remember we were doing one in particular scene with Jesse James, and I was incredibly violent physically and emotionally with him, and they called cut, and I looked up and I noticed that the script supervisor and another crew member were crying, and I remember just thinking, wow, I mean, this triggers so much in some people.
Listen to me, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you. You put your hands on it right now, okay? We're friends, we're having fun. Put your hands on it.
that's good.
How do you sustain an implausible haunted house film for an hour and a half? And the only way you can do it is through the characterization. So Melissa had to do lots of things. She had to be a plausible mum. She had to be somebody who was so desperate to have this family that she would deny the very things in front of her face. And it was that layer of denial that she brought to the role.
To get the real tears and to get that sort of stressed look and the nose running and the, like that, that you put yourself through a lot for that. So there's a bit of method, a lot of substitution.
Just read about this man. Catch him.
If I can't relate in a certain moment, I will substitute something that's similar that I've been through in my life, so I can sort of put it in context to how it could feel.
A day or two before we started rehearsing, Melissa took Jimmy and Chloe to Six Flags.
We went to Six Flags because they wanted us to bond. And when we went on this wet ride, once it got all wet, we all got all wet. It felt like she was my mom, really, because she was always really nice to me on set, too.
The toughest part for me in writing this movie was creating a character out of the little DeFeo girl who died. In the original Amivitille Horror, that character doesn't exist. In those versions, there's a ghost by the name of Jody, and Jody is actually this sort of demonic pig. I presented this idea to my producers, and we all sort of agreed that instead of having a Jody the pig character, we would have a character, and that character was the youngest girl. And we changed her name to Jody because it really, as a way of somewhat fictionalizing that character and that part of the story.